Holy stocks and bonds, guys. So I don't know how many of you guys were watching the Fed rate hike today with Jerome Powell, but it was crazy. For many of you guys who have stock portfolios, the market was up 2.24% today. So it was a crazy huge day on one side. It's a wild time. So I'm convinced that Jay Powell's smoking crack, but there's another topic that I want to talk about today, but I'll just go through this one really quick. So right now, just to give you some super top end things about the macroeconomics and state of the economy right now. So we've got inflation rate is sitting at 7.9%. Once you factor in oil, it's probably sitting north of 10%. You have jobs for every 1.7 jobs. They have 1.7 jobs for every one person in the economy. So we are massively over full employment at this point. And the federal fund has two functions. They've got two functions. One of them is to decrease inflation. The other is to make sure that we're fully employed. Right now, we are massively fully employed, and we have a 10% inflation rate, which their target is 2%. So they're failing on all metrics. And right now, 0.25% is how much they hiked the Fed in order to quell inflation, which is effectively trying to put out a burning building with a water balloon. And so it's a really interesting time in the economy. But one thing that's happening in the market that no one's talking about is mortgage rates. So the housing market has been something that has just been having record breaking upswings the entire time. And there's some really interesting things happening in the market that I'd love your guys' feedback on. And so, just to take a step back really quick, so I have been making a lot of short form content right now, like 30 to 60 seconds, because I really wanted to kind of go through the basics, give business tips, talk about habits, principles, things that I've learned along the way. And then ultimately, over the next few weeks, I'm really going to start transitioning and continuing that, but having more medium form content that's going to be 5 to 15 minutes. And that's where I can really deep dive into these topics that I'm really excited about, because 60 seconds is just not enough time for me to be able to give the detail that I want. And so, I apologize in advance if the mic quality and everything is not perfect. This was just too good of a topic to not talk about, but I'm actually going to be having a mic, and I'm going to have cameras and all of those things, and a hardwire for internet. So it's going to be way better quality going forward. So bear with me today. So one of the things that I'm really excited about that I haven't dove a lot into is just money in general. So I want to talk about what I'm investing about. I want to talk about my raw thoughts on the market, what areas and sectors of the economy I think are going to do really well over the next couple of years, places where I think that there's going to be weakness, and just certain opportunities that I think are exciting to really look forward as we go through the market, and just going through each asset class and saying why it's good and bad and how you can position your portfolio accordingly. And so mortgage rates are a really interesting one, and I'm going to share my screen just to show you guys what's going on over here. So check this out. If you look at where we're at today, mortgage rates hit a record up here the past few years, hitting 4.45%. So if you check out where we were at in January, we were at 3.1% in January. So we're almost up 1.5% in a 3-month period. I mean, this is unprecedented. And the reason why this is super important, and I'm going to bump over and show you guys just some analytics behind it, is that people don't buy houses. They don't buy houses based on how much a house costs. They buy a house based on what the monthly payment is going to be. So let me use it as an example just to show you guys some stuff. So if we're looking at housing prices right now, let's say I'm going to use just $1 million house example as just a super even number. So if you got $1 million house with 20% down payment, 2.75% interest rate, which is where we were a year ago, you have a $4,600 per month payment. So if you take the same $1 million and you have a 4.45% interest rate, that means you're going to have to pay 5,363 bucks, which, 5,360 minus 4,600, you're going to be paying an extra $760 per month. And that's wild, right? Because what that is that means that you have to pay an extra 16.5% in order for you to be at the same parity for the market. So I really think that housing has a ton of headwinds coming into this year, because people are not going to want to tolerate paying that much more for houses. So housing prices are going to have a really difficult time going up. And I think it's honestly possible for housing prices to fall this year, because there's so much headwinds in the market. And just to use this as another example, you would have to fall to 857,000 to have the same payment. So the house price would have to drop by 13 to 14% just to have the same monthly payment. And so there's going to be a lot of headwinds going on in the economy. And housing prices are one thing, right? Residential is one thing because there's a ton of demand right now. There's kind of tailwinds and headwinds, but people are really going to start getting defeated and they're honestly not going to qualify for these loans. So it's going to be a really interesting thing to watch. But another thing that no one's talking about is commercial lending rates. So if you're looking at apartment complexes, things like that, I'm going to go into the details later in other videos about this with like cap rates and the spreads and everything. But really how commercial real estate works is it's the spread in between the interest rate and your capitalization rate. And so last year, people were buying, 3% loan buildings for a 3.5 cap. So a 0.5% was sitting in the middle. And then now, because interest rates are up like 1.5%, that means that they're going to have to buy a 5% cap building or 4.5 at a 4% to 4.5% interest rate to have that same spread. So buildings will literally have to drop like 15 to 20% in value to have the same parity to even qualify for the loan. So a lot of that might sound like gibberish, and I will definitely be digging in more on other topics, but I just thought it was really interesting to talk about high level. And really the long short of it is that people don't buy buildings or houses based on how much they cost. They buy them based on how much it's going to cost on a monthly basis and the spread of how much they're going to either make in an investment in between the payment and how much they make, or conversely, how much they're going to have to pay on a monthly basis, which is defined by the interest rate if you're looking at the residential side. So, I don't contend to have all of the answers, but at the same time, I think that it's really important to have a healthy dialogue. So I'm totally down if people disagree with me. And if you guys want to leave a comment, just let me know your guys' thoughts because I want to know what it's like buying a house right now. I want to know what it's like for people selling a house or buying a house, people that are searching the market. What are your fears or your excitement? Because it's really interesting for me to understand the dynamics because I'm actually looking at buying a house this year. And this is definitely making me think a little bit about that process. So looking forward to talking to you guys all soon, and I appreciate your time.